Before we get started, it's really important to know what type of lights to use. So right here, I have a spool of C9 socket wire, and it's got those big C9 light bulbs. I love to use these for rooftops and for on the ground, but for windows, don't like to use it. Instead, I like to use, this is C7. Same type of bulb, but it's a little bit smaller socket. And these screw in, and pro tip, always screw them in before you arrive to the job. But these are a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. They're not too heavy, so they can use a lot less glue to hold them up. When I'm putting lights on a window and I'm cutting them the first time, I'm gonna go ahead and have my spool with me. That way I don't have to cut excess. I just kind of cut exactly what I need. So I'm gonna roll a little bit out here. And I'm just gonna measure it out. Now, I'm leaving one extra bulb on there just in case. There's just one socket that's about a nickel or so worth of expense that I'm willing to snip off. If I'm a little bit close on the length, I'd rather have a little bit extra and have to cut a bulb off than to be short and now have to go get either a whole new length of cord or a plug to put another snippet on there. I should add, if you're working at a high height from a ladder, you might not want to have that whole chain of socket wire pulling you down. So it's okay to just kind of overestimate, just guesstimate, and have an extra couple of bulbs just to be safe. And it's better to spend an extra $1 on some socket wire, which it won't even cost that much, than it is to risk falling, because it's just a one-time cut. The next season and the following seasons after that, you're already gonna have everything pre-cut and ready to go, and hopefully you label it as well so that it's a lot easier to install. So be careful. It's better to overestimate the bulbs you need, and then you can always just snip that little extra bit once you finish gluing everything. Whenever we're doing the electrical, we're going to use vampire plugs. They're called vampire plugs because of those little teeth in there. They bite down into the wire, so you want to make sure those are connecting through that wire. And you always only want to do one male end on any plug. As many females as you want, but only one male. So what you do is you cut it, already did, and then you just want to kind of pull those little parts, get a little separation there. Because in these vampire plugs, you have the little space there. See that little line in the middle? It's kind of right there. So I'm going to go on the side. See, there's one side that's cut off that goes around the wire, and then the one side that's kind of capped. So you go into the capped end here where there's a bridge. Go straight in till you reach the inside wall, fold it down like so, and then you can slide this cover. Again, there's a little end on there. That one's open, so you put the open side on the open side, slide it over. If it's a little harder to get, maybe you have weak hands or it's just stubborn, use the back end of some pliers and you can squeeze it shut. And there we go. We got the male end ready to go. I'm just gonna tighten that a little bit more. And that's gonna be the safest way to have the wires or electrical being run custom cut. So we got the power connected to the inline male or inline female up there. Drops down and it's gonna be running to this gutter line for more roof line lights. So I'm gonna use that same plug and I'm just gonna put an inline female right there and then run straight over to the window and begin decorating. I already have the male on in. Make sure the power is off before you plug something in like this. Otherwise, start with the female end first. That way you know you're not gonna be cutting into live wire. In this case, nothing is plugged in at the moment, so I'm safe to plug in. And I'm just gonna use my Ryobi hot glue gun. I'm gonna just put a little bead on the end of this, just to stick it in place. I don't want it wiggling around on me too much. That's really dirty. Pro tip, if you have to go ahead and hot glue a couple times and pull it off, it gets all the organic debris off and out of the way, so you have clean surface that will adhere to finally. So I'm just gonna glue this wire as well. Just a little dab will do. And I like to have just a little bit extra just in case. So next year, if I don't remember exactly how it was and I drop it down a little bit, I'm gonna be safe to go. So I'm gonna be able to cut in here. Remember, I'm not plugged in, there's no power. And I'll just snip that line. I missed a little bit. And I'll pull those apart. and put my female plug on the end. There we go. Hanging these lights around windows, I'm gonna wanna start at the top. Once I can get a couple of bulbs glued on, it acts like an anchor point. Even if I have to move them around later, then that's okay. I'd rather just get it up there so that I have something steady to build off of. And the key is I wanna get the top bulbs aligned properly. And I already measured these out a little bit earlier. So I might have one extra bulb to cut off at the end, but we'll see how close I am. Again, I'm gonna do a straight line across. And these have like little pigtails on the end of them. I'm gonna make sure that I'm gluing on the opposite end of that. And so in this case, I have a little stone ridge going around the perimeter. So I'm gonna put that empty or open side of the socket straight against it. I don't wanna go on the back if I can avoid it. Every once in a while you have to. Like I'm gonna have to on the peak there, so I'm just trying to get a middle bulb up there. But I'm trying to get this surrounding the perimeter like so. So here, I'm hanging at a good spot. I'm just gonna make sure I can align either 2 bulbs at the peak or 1. So I like where that's at right now. I'm gonna go ahead and start with this peak bulb. I'm gonna see if I can catch that on there for a second. Now I know I have that peak bulb dead center. And we have a nice cool temperature out here, so the glue is adhering quickly, and that helps. I'm gonna finish the top here and then get off the ladder as quick as I can. So now I've got the top secure, that's not going anywhere, and I can just work around the back. So it's just a slight dab, about the size of a Tic Tac, and a little bit of pressure for about 2 to 3 seconds in the shade, maybe a little bit longer if you have constant sunlight. I'm just gonna hook that around there and go underneath the bottom. On this ledge, we either gotta go beneath it or above it. And above it, we've got all this organic growth. So I know from experience, the hot glue is gonna have a hard time adhering to that. Plus we have the pigtails on the bottom, so it's gonna be easier to go around the bottom, and we're gonna have to go directly to the brick on the back of the bulb, and it'll stick on like that. I don't like going on the back because it can pull the sockets out, but in this situation, this is too concave, and I won't be able to get the glue to adhere any other way. I almost forgot. We want to make sure this lines up well. So I'm going to lose this a little bit more and keep that balanced around the center. Sometimes you get on a mortar line and you're going to have to put a little bit extra hot glue on there. Most of the time, that hot glue is going to pop up with the socket, but every once in a while it's helpful to have just some type of a scraper to get off of the brick or the mortar. And there we go. All I gotta do now is plug this in here. Now I'll just re-adhere this in the way that seems most appropriate. I'm gonna go get a Sharpie right now. I'm just gonna put on this the number of the window. There's a lot of different ways you can label it. You gotta figure out your own system that works best for you. I usually start to do numbering from the top going across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'll put second, like second for second floor, and first for first floor. There's a lot of different ways you can do it again. So figure out a way. The other trick is that you can always keep things plugged in. It can get a little bit ruffled during the winter or the off season, depending on how you store it. So it's helpful either way to still label it. You can use a Sharpie or you can use some type of a tag, and you can either label it when you're putting it up or when you're taking it down, but make sure you do label it. If you label everything, the next year when you come back and you do the same windows or the same house, you're gonna be able to go almost twice as fast. And so that time is money. And year 1, you might not have a lot of clients, but year 2, year 3, year 4, your service starts filling up. your calendar gets maximized, and so then every 15 minutes is another $100 that could be down the drain once your whole schedule is filled up, and you don't want to be dilly-dallying around trying to untangle and figure out which one went where. So guys, do yourself a favor and label. If you do it when you're installing, that makes it a lot easier. If you're in a rush, then you can always just make sure you write a note down, say, I need to relabel these things when I take them down. Guys, did you see the mistake? There's one mistake. You can see there's a bulb down in that corner, and then there's nothing down in that corner. I have a bulb above it and a bulb below it. But then there's like a two foot gap right there. And so guys, that happens. That's why I wanted to show you real quick. All you have to do, rather than if you already have the lights glued up there and you realize at the end that you cut it too short, that's why I said at the beginning, you always want to have a little bit extra, because it's better to cut that off and spend an extra 20 cents on that socket than it is to have to spend an extra $1, $2 on the little plugs. But having said that, time is money, and it's much more valuable to save yourself 20 minutes than it is to spend $2 on some plugs. So all you have to do is put a female on the end, connect there, make sure you have enough slack before you cut it, and then you can move it around and hot glue wherever you want. So there we go, window is all complete, and we're ready for turning these lights on.